Hello everyone, I'm Jesus and welcome to the next episode of the Road to Old School MTG. So this should be a quicker video. I only have one card to open up, one package. I do have a lot more coming up though. But considering those cards that are coming up are, just smaller things, although a lot of them. And considering this one card is probably more expensive than everything that's coming up recently, I figured it should get its own video because at least to me it is a bit important. And I wanted to take this opportunity to discuss my official entrance into Premodern. I've made previous videos on Premodern where I was researching the decks and then I was creating a deck, Stasis, and then revamping it, trying different versions. And today I just came up back from the first Premodern tournament held at Dave's Time Warp in Cedar Grove, New Jersey. That's the local gaming store that the New Jersey guys attend, and every now and then we'll have events on Saturdays, and then a lot of other people might come up. So we had a 3-round tournament. This is the deck I used. I'll be posting the videos for that shortly. I recorded 3 rounds. I recorded all my matches. So considering now I'm officially playing pre-modern games, I figured this is a good chance also to kind of talk about it. So first, let's open up this card. So this is a Old Man of the Sea. I got this from the Old School Magic Facebook group. So I believe it was for $100, which is very cheap. It's HP, of course, right? But still a very good price. So the reason why I want this card, and I only need one, is because of this right here. So this is I have two 100 card singleton decks, old school decks. This is the one that's basically commander compliant, so I could technically play it as a commander deck because I built it to based off one commander, Rubinia Soulsinger. And since I keep this deck totally independent, so it's here at all times. But some of the cards here are expensive, like let's say a Chaos Orb. Of course, I cannot, well, at least me, I can't buy an extra Chaos Orb just to have around, just to put in my singleton deck, right? So, although I don't know if Chaos Orb is here, I gotta double check on that. But that's just an example. There are certain expensive cards that I don't want to buy extra just to keep here because it's a little bit of a waste of money. So I do have some proxies here, right? But like I said, actually, this Thanatos' Coffin is real. But on my other Sisterton deck, Singleton Sisterton deck, it also has a Thanatos' Coffin, and that one is a proxy. Depending on which one I'm playing, and if it's just for fun, I'll keep the proxies on. But if it's more of an official thing, then I'll swap the proxies for the real cards. But the Old Man of the Sea is a card I actually did not have a copy of, so I only had a proxy, right? So because I just couldn't. Oh, there it is. That's the Chaos Orb proxy. Same thing, Managering proxy. I have a Managering, but I have it in my regular old school collection. If, like I said, since I like to keep this independent, some of the more expensive cards are proxies. This City of Brass is real, things like that, right? So if it's manageable, it's a real card. For the most part, most of these are real, right? But every now and then you get an expensive card that I don't want to. There we go. I don't want to keep swapping back and forth unless, of course, I'm actually up on doing a proper tournament. But the Old Man of the Sea is a card that was always a proxy. I never ever had a real one, and that bugged me, of course, because it's breaking the rule that I have, right? But it was mainly to test it out. I barely ever got this, right? It's a 100-card deck, right? So I'm sure there's cards here that I've never even seen, that I've never even used. And this is, I barely used it, just from luck, right? Just didn't get it. Cheap proxy, and the proxies that I have always say proxy in the back, right? So that it can never be confused for a real card. But like I said, they tend to go for like 200-ish, at least when I wanted it. Now, of course, all old school cards prices have dropped by a lot, basically a third, sometimes even like half off. So I was able to snag a real, finally, Old Man of the Sea. So there we go. Okay, came in a cardboard to protect it, and then here it is for real. Pretty exciting. Old Man of the Sea is an awesome creature, but it's just so niche. It hardly gets used in old school. Okay, so it came in a bit of a floppy container, but it's still good, especially with this cardboard. Okay, so instead of trying to peel this off, I'm just going to take out the card itself. I can see already the edges is definitely a HP Old Man of the Sea, but of course with the price I paid, that's what you expect. But yeah, wow. Pretty excited to have a real one. Funnily enough, similar backs, but it's not the real. So just so I don't get it confused, I'm going to tear this one up. All right. So sorry for the glare. Yeah, this card's beat to hell. And I love that. Yep. And actually in English, right? Because there's, if I'm not mistaken, there's actually no, Arabian Nights. There are foreign versions, but those are from revised. So I keep confusing them because there are certain ifrits that are foreign. You can get foreign white border, foreign black borders. I have 4 foreign white border certain to be ifrits. That's from Arabian Nights, of course, right? So then I assume, at least for a while, I assumed, oh, okay, so they reprinted Arabian Nights to be it's not getting a clear picture here. So I said, so in my mind, I was always thinking, oh, okay, so they reprinted Arabian Nights for foreign countries, but that's not the case. It's revised. In revised, there's certain ifrits are in that set, but not Old Men of the Seas. You can only get Old Men of the Seas from English Arabian Nights, which is why they're so expensive, even though it's such a niche card that almost nobody plays. So sorry, it's not particularly super clear the image, but I think good enough. I mean, it's an HP card. But yep, there we go. The proxy goes bye-bye. So since I have no, of course I could just keep the proxy there, right? But the point of me not like the Tonus's coffin, I may actually every now and then use that for something else. This is strictly just for this. I don't anticipate me needing an Old Man of the Sea for anything else. So I am excited to turn that into a real card. All right, so that's that. So now talking about Premodern. So this is my Stasis deck. So here's the sideboard that I took. So like I said, this deck I just had a tournament with, and I anticipate any future tournaments or, you know, any just random games, maybe even online, right? So I might do some online games for Premodern now. If I do this deck, which is a Stasis deck, so this would be at least the deck that I use today. Maybe I end up either using the exact same thing or something similar. So 3 root maces, 4 annals, 4 chills, 4 hibernations. So the root mace are just against any type of control deck, because like, so even though this is the first tournament, I've been playing a couple of just practice games with some of the guys at Time Warp, because there were other players of Premodern, right? I've never participated, right? Because I'm an old school guy. But little by little now, since now I'm into it now. So there's a pool of players there. So this is, and as I was playing, certain decks gave me issues, the control type. So root mace is against anything kind of like that. Although it's not the best solution, but based off, you know, what I had available and what I thought would work, this is what I came out with. 4 annals, of course, against Stifle Thought, or just, it could also go against, like I said, any control type decks that may have also artifacts or enchantments that could work with that. Chills, actually one of the games today was against mono red, and I put in chills to pretty good effect. So you guys will be seeing that. And then hibernation against mono green, in particular elves, right? So I've been hearing that elves is falling out of favor recently, but that's probably the worst matchup for me. So I played against some players that had elves, and because of the elves special abilities where they can untap each other or they can return a land back to player's hand, which he can then play back again and use to cast more stuff. So then it's very hard for that kind of a deck for me to deal with it, right? So eventually, unless I got lucky, or probably a root maze, right? So with a root maze in play, then maybe that's possible. Actually, maybe not even, because like I said, I think some of the effects can actually untap. Then they can still attack, and then that's a repeatable effect that some of them have, some of the creatures in those kind of decks have. So yeah, it's just hard. So I figured Hibernation would be a good card against, but I haven't particularly put it to effect yet. So we'll see. This is theory, which like I said, I've just gotten into Premodern. So just to explain my deck here, so this is a net deck, right? So I just found something online. Unfortunately, I thought I saved the link, so that way I could just post it, but I didn't. So I'll see if I can either have a deck picture, or I may have a version of this in Mana Stack, right? And then I'll put an image. But I can at least run through the deck and explain, right? So first of all, of course, counter spells. A lot of different counter spells, but the main deck here, this is the combo: Stasis and Forsaken City. Forsaken City doesn't untap during your untap step. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may remove a card in your hand from the game. If you do untap Forsaken City, tap Forsaken City, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, right? So this is a combo right here. So Stasis removes players skip their untap steps, right? So there's no untap. So nothing untaps. But Forsaken City didn't untap anyway. It can only untap during your upkeep if I remove a card from my hand out of the game. And then it'll untap. Now it's free to tap and pay the stasis cost, right? So, and then this is a really good luck with Root Maze, because then lands and artifacts come into play tapped. Oh yeah, I remember that. Originally I thought Root Maze also made creatures come into play tapped, but that wasn't the case. Only artifacts and lands, which of course that's the main way to play stuff, of course, right? So, but that's why the elves were a little tricky, right? Because they can get around this. But this is the combo, and then I would either wait, or hopefully I already had something set up where I had the Black Vice, right? So then Black Vice does 1 damage to target opponent for each card over 4 that they have during their upkeep. Right, so I would just basically stall, and the players, of course, if they get a land, they will play it to keep their hand low. But eventually they'll get other stuff, of course, and they can cast it because their other lands are tapped, or if they cast something, they can just cast one thing, because then their lands will stay tapped after that, right? So it's grindy, and you'll see it in the videos. Definitely, most of the games were grindy, but eventually they'll have a full hand, and this will be doing 2-3 points of damage per turn. Eventually, I win, right? So it's a bit, it's definitely a grindy way to win, which honestly I wasn't. Now that I actually played it and experienced it in person, I'm gonna see if I can do something about this, right? So in terms of I want to get a quicker way of winning. That's not just me, being so passive. So this is how the combo goes, and but there's a lot of really good synergy here. So first of all, right? So I'm playing my lands. If I play it, it's mono blue, right? So island, play it, and I can use, of course, to pay the stasis. But then I'll have cards like Gush, right? Instead of paying Gush's casting cost, I can return 2 islands to my hand. And of course, I'll pick 2 islands that are already tapped, so that way I can play them again untapped and then use them for the stasis. And of course, Gush is the effect is draw 2 cards, right? So then I'll draw 2 more cards. So yeah, definitely playing lands, tapping them, returning the lands back to your hand so you can play them again and then use it for the stasis. That's a good way, right? Because that's what you want to do in terms of keeping stasis alive. Because you don't, the Forsaken Cities, there's 4 of them, but it could be destroyed. You definitely were games where like I wasn't getting them, and then okay, but I couldn't wait. I was about to die. I'm like, okay, I gotta just use my regular lands to pay the stasis cost. But with the recursion of returning lands, so I can replay them and then tap them again for the stasis. So it is possible to get that going. So Forsaken City, although it's more convenient and a more permanent, it's a permanent lock. It's not by any means mandatory, right? Or at least I can stall it out until I do get a Forsaken City, basically, right? So by these other means, same thing with Thwart. I can return 3 islands to my hand instead of paying this casting cost, which is just counters a spell, right? So same thing. I play lands. Of course, if I'm tapping my own lands to pay for the stasis, I probably have either very few mana open or maybe even no mana open. But then Thwart is perfect, right? Since I'm either tapped out or maybe I don't want to tap out Thwart, I can return the tapped islands I already have to counter a spell. And then those lands come up to my hand and then I can play them again untapped, right? So that's why the Root Maze is tricky, because that'll mess up that combo where I can return lands to my hand and then play them untapped, because this taps all lands and artifacts from both players or from everybody, right? If you're playing like multiplayer, all lands and artifacts come into play tapped, including my own, right? So that's why this is a little bit trickier. It wouldn't allow that, right? So basically, this forces me to have like a Forsaken City once I have the stasis on. So this is more of a desperation move, the Root Maze. But normally, just main deck, this is a very, very viable option where a lot of these cards make me return islands, and I will always choose, of course, the tapped islands, so I can replay them again and feed the stasis more and more. Chain of Vapor, so it's both to return my stasis, or I can, of course, if I'm either not running, I'm running out of options, maybe I didn't have a counter spell at the moment, and then there's a creature, I can Chain of Vapor, which is just return target permanent to owner's hand, and then they could copy it by sacrificing a land, copy something, and then it can go back and forth depending on how many people want to sacrifice more and more permanents, right? But it can be repeatable. But usually, more often than not, I just bounce my own stasis out of that, either to save it in case it's getting destroyed, or this kind of thing where the Thwart and the Gush, and then eventually, I don't have any more of those, and I'm almost tapped out, I only got 1 mana open. Okay, I set myself up so I have 1 mana open before the end of the opponent's turn, return it to my hand. Right, so that's, like I said, that's its main purpose, but it can be defensive as well if I'm in a desperate situation. Foil. So this is just another way of not using mana, because I could be tapped out, to counter spells. Right, so you may discard an island and another card instead of paying the casting cost, and it's just counters a spell. Similar to then, but I do have traditional counter spells like Counterspell and Arcane Denial. Impulse just lets me cycle through my hand. Boomerang, of course, return target permanent. So once again, either for the stasis or to return something from my opponents in case it went through. Daze is another great way to counter stuff. I can return 1 island to my hand instead of paying its casting cost. Counter target spell unless opponent pays 1, right? So this definitely needs more of a setup. But it's still, considering the other ones, I would use the other ones first and then wait for my opponent to tap out. And then that's when the days come. Or early in the game, that's also a good way to get rid of some early pressure by using the dazes. And then I think, yeah, that's basically it. Like I already talked about the Arcane Denials. Yeah, so honestly, yeah, I really like the deck, but it is very tedious, which of course I knew going in, right? But theory and practice are 2 things, right? So you don't really know how tedious it is unless you actually play the games, right? But yeah, it was pretty tedious. Maybe even borderline boring. right? So you guys will be the judge when you see the videos. Or I'm gonna see the videos as well, right? So I'm sure I'll be reviewing that. But I do like it. I will check the pre-modern card pool, see if there's anything I can do to kind of hasten things, because that's what I would prefer. Like I would prefer to like get the lock, of course, but then not just draw go, be more proactive to get the win. So but at least this is now, like I said, my official entrance into pre-modern. You guys will be seeing these pre-modern videos coming up soon of the tournament that we had here, and if I any other chances I get to record more pre-modern, I will definitely be posting more up. And then, like I said, also excited to have a official Old Men of the Sea now to go in my real to replace the proxy, and then have a real one for my old school Sisterton deck. All right, guys, thank you guys for watching.